repeated calls for help, a suicidal veteran, and an alleged cover-up by Woodland Park Police. All three intersect, leading to a devastating outcome in this 13 Investigates special investigation.
And before we go on, we want to warn you, this report includes graphic conversations about suicide. It's hard to watch, but we believe this is an important story to tell. Chief Investigative Reporter Chelsea Brentsel has our 13 Investigates special report, Concealed Records, the truth behind a veteran's suicide.
Woodland Park Police, this is Max.
Hi, so I'm calling because I'm concerned about a friend of mine up there. Jeremy?
They're talking about Army veteran Jeremy Mitchell.
I need to place a welfare check on someone right now.
Jeremy served multiple deployments, including one in Afghanistan. He quickly rose up the Army ranks, spending the last years of his military career as a geospatial engineer technician, creating maps to keep his fellow soldiers safe. But his service took a toll on him.
He's a PTSD veteran.
Jeremy had a tough time when he returned to Fort Carson. He was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and medically retired from the Army in 2018. But he had friends all over the country determined to get him help.
Your darling, I'm actually calling from Orlando, Florida.
About Jeremy?
Yes.
Between December 23rd and 24th of 2020, the Woodland Park Police Department received at least 11 calls from concerned family and friends. The calls started coming in after the 29-year-old father had sent suicidal messages to friends. He also posted a picture with a gun to his head on Facebook.
Just know that he is suicidal and it's for real.
Police went to his home around 8 o'clock on the evening of December 23rd. Records showed when Jeremy's wife answered the door, she told them Jeremy, who was inside, would be mad if he found out they were there. It wasn't long after that, police made the decision to leave Jeremy alone in crisis. The initial police report says Sergeant Mike McDaniel called his commander while outside Jeremy's house. He told him Jeremy was drinking, yelling, possibly damaging stuff in the home, and maybe suicidal with a gun. McDaniel told the commander he thought it would be safer for the wife and officers to leave rather than, quote, force a situation where it could turn violent. According to the report, Commander Andy Librand agreed to leave Jeremy alone and directed McDaniel to leave the scene.
Copy, we're inside the residence now.
13 Investigates obtained police-worn body camera footage. In the video, officers hear Jeremy threaten suicide by cop.
Let's go. He's got a gun?
Yeah, he has a pistol.
He has a pistol? Okay.
Police walked down the driveway, got back into their cars, and left with Jeremy's wife. Friends and family continue to call concerned and confused by the police response.
I need to warn y'all he has a gun.
Yeah, we know.
We have a friend that lives close by and she said that there's no police cars out front.
Police reports show that Sergeant McDaniel was back at the police department when he told Jeremy's father by phone that Jeremy was threatening suicide by cop and officers had left the scene. McDaniel told Jeremy's father it was, quote, better we leave and hope he goes to sleep after drinking instead of forcing a physical contact.
And we've spoken with his dad and for the family. Right now we're leaving him alone because we don't want to escalate the situation.
Officers never went back out to Jeremy's house that night, but Jeremy's friends continued to call police all the way into the next morning, Christmas Eve.
Is there any proof of life at this point?
We have not had any contact with him since last night, but we're hoping for the best and prepared for the worst.
The young veteran was found by his wife shortly after this call on the morning of Christmas Eve. Jeremy died by suicide. 500 miles away in Oklahoma was Jeremy's mother.
I was at work and my children called me and said, you have to come home, there's an emergency. And they didn't want to tell me on the phone. They needed to tell me in person that he was gone. And we packed a bag immediately and drove immediately.
Lisa says the first time she realized something was suspicious with Jeremy's case was days later during a phone call with the coroner.
She kept telling me odd things like, some things are worth losing your job over. I don't care if I get reelected next year. This needs to be exposed. The police failed your son, and he should still be here.
Lisa wouldn't know for 6 more months what really happened the night of her son's death. Police gave her some records explaining what happened, but not all of them. 13 Investigates uncovered these police audit records showing Commander Andy Librand
changed the status of this police report, keeping it hidden from Lisa and the mother of Jeremy's child.
I wanted answers for myself. I wanted answers for my kids when they're older, when they're going to want to look at the case. I wanted to know exactly what happened.
Less than a month after Jeremy's death, Jessica sends an email to Woodland Park saying she wants all of the police reports regarding Jeremy. This internal case audit obtained by 13 Investigates shows within hours of Jessica's request, one of the reports in Jeremy's case was mysteriously unapproved by Commander Librand, making it unavailable for release to Jessica and the public. The report would later be reapproved and put back into public record, but not until after they sent Jessica the incomplete documents. They never sent the full story to Jeremy's mother either.
What do you make of all of this?
I can't help but look at it as a cover-up.
With the help of 13 Investigates, Jessica filed another public records request in June. That's when she finally got the once hidden report. The report was written by Detective Shannon Everhart, who responded to Jeremy's death on Christmas Eve. It shows Detective Everhart asked Sergeant McDaniel why trained mental health medics known as MAPS didn't respond to Jeremy's home the night before. The sergeant told Detective Everhart MAPS was not called out on scene because officers heard Jeremy threaten suicide by cop. The report was also the record showing Commander Librand told the sergeant what Jeremy was doing was not breaking the law and to leave the scene. But 13 Investigates has learned the Woodland Park Police Department's response to Jeremy's welfare check doesn't align with their typical response to these calls.
Has MAPS ever been called out to a situation where someone is threatening suicide by cop?
Absolutely. That's not an uncommon call for us to have.
James McLaughlin is the MAPS program manager at the Ute Valley Regional Health Service District.
So generally what happens in that situation historically is law enforcement would get on scene, secure the scene for us, make sure that the scene is safe for the patient and for us. And then we get on scene and work with the client to de-escalate the crisis and get them the help that they need.
City data shows Woodland Park Police called the MAPS team almost 400 times since 2018. In those hundreds of calls, they asked MAPS to help their officers or other agencies respond to a mental health crisis situation. Dispatchers even mentioned the MAPS program when a man who identified as a Texas police officer called for a welfare check on Jeremy.
Here we call it MAPS, is our mental assessment professional.
Okay.
And so they may call them out there and they may take him on what we call the M1 hold, which would be like 72 hours.
Why wasn't that done?
Jeremy, who was in the military and did so much and sacrificed a lot for the country, only to have the local police department fail him.
Both Lisa and Jessica believe Jeremy would have benefited from a mental health professional responding that night.
His posts on social media were literally a cry for help. He needed help right then. He had friends calling. All somebody had to do was come out there, who's a professional, get him out of there, and he may still be alive today.
According to the police department's handbook, it appears Commander Librand violated Woodland Park PD policy when he changed the status of the report, showing how officers responded to Jeremy's home. 13 Investigates found it's also against Colorado law to conceal, remove, or impair the availability of a public record.
We want accountability, and we want to know what they're going to do to make sure it never happens again. I would like to see a public apology. Own it. Be a man of integrity.
I want the people and the public to know that they need to be held responsible. Somebody needs to be accountable for these actions.
The mental health professionals that could have been called out to Jeremy's house that night wish they had a chance to help.
I'm not saying that, on all the completed suicides that we didn't show up on, that we would have made a difference. All I'm saying is I sure would have liked to have had an opportunity to do that.
And it's a moment those involved can never get back.
We're trying to understand why he's not still here. He should still be here.
13 Investigates reached out to the responding officer, Sergeant Mike McDaniel. He told us he has no comment at this time. Commander Andy Librand did not respond to our multiple requests for comment. He is one of 2 commanders at Woodland Park currently under criminal investigation by the Colorado Bureau of Investigations and Teller County Sheriff's Office. The CBI will not confirm to 13 Investigates if that investigation has any relation to Jeremy's case. Chelsea Brensel, 13 Investigates.
We took the results of our investigation to the Woodland Park City Manager. Michael Lawson tells 13 Investigates he's very concerned by the allegations of high-ranking police officers hiding information from a grieving family.
He was unable to go into specific details with 13 Investigates, citing the ongoing criminal investigation by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and the Teller County Sheriff's Office. But he did have this message for the veteran's family.
Certainly and truly, we feel for the Mitchell family. We, as a city, as the employees, we can't fully understand the pain and the hurt that that they've experienced, and that is truly regrettable. What I would like them to know is that the City of Woodland Park is taking this very seriously. We are cooperating with the investigation, and we look forward to the conclusions of that investigation. If it is found that there are deficiencies, as I mentioned, I can assure the family, I can ensure our community that we will do whatever is necessary to make sure that any issues that we uncover do not repeat themselves in the future.
And it does appear this incident involves several officers, but the city manager says there are many men and women in the Woodland Park Police Department who are dedicated to protecting and serving the community.
If you or someone you know is experiencing suicidal thoughts, there is help. You can contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.